Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffiths. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffiths, and this podcast is ranked in the top 2% of the most popular podcasts globally. Honestly, it's all because of my guests. I'm just here to welcome them and let them chat, and I have a ball doing that. I am honored and blessed to share time with people who are at the top of their game, and they show up here willing to help you get to where you want to be in life and in business. And my guests today are Deborah Shames and David Booth, and our topic today is rethinking the rules. This is important, y'all. Listen, write it down. Rethinking the rules, why everything you know about speaking might be wrong. And as co-founders of Eloqui, I hope I'm saying that right, a training firm specializing in business communication presentation skills, they have developed a unique approach to communication and presentation training that blends art and cognitive science. And they have trained hundreds of professionals nationwide to find their unique voices and become more effective presenters. And their client list includes Fortune 500 companies such as TD Ameritrade, Mattel, Fisher-Price, Merrill Lynch, Siemens, I'm not sure about that one, and Pfizer. And Deborah Shames is a communication expert and author of several influential books, including Own the Room and Out Front. And these books focus on empowering women in professional environments. And with a rich background in film production, she skillfully integrates storytelling with effective communication strategies to enhance her coaching and her training. Now, David Booth, you've seen him before, I'm telling you have, is a communication specialist known for his expertise in presentation skills. And with a background in classical acting, he has performed in theater and narrated numerous training films, I can't talk today, across various industries, including banking, technology, energy, and telecommunications. And David has coached clients from Fortune 500 companies, enhancing their public speaking abilities and helping them connect with their audiences effectively. And I know I'm talking a lot, but there's two of them and they're fascinating. So I'm almost done here. So together they have developed innovative training methods, as I mentioned earlier, that blend art and cognitive science. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because in the pre-interview, I was talking about podcasting, in my opinion, being part of public speaking, but maybe it's not what I thought it was. So we're going to talk about that. So good morning, Deborah. Good morning, David. It's good to have you here. And thank you for sending me your soon to be published Briefly Speaking Deluxe Box Set. There's 3 books in there. I appreciate the advanced copy, and I have them right in front of me. So to kick things off, can you each share a bit about yourselves and how you show up in the world?
Ooh,
Sure.
sure. So David will talk about being a star, an actor on stage and in film. For example, he was a lead actor at the Berkeley Rep, at Tennessee Williams Theater in Florida, and Oregon Shakespeare. And then he went on to represent like Siemens, you did pronounce it right, and Chevron and other companies as a corporate spokesman. But he is still known as Drew Barrymore's father in Scream. So I know your listeners will go back and look at David in terms of the opening scene.
Well, and Deborah was a director of film and television and really a pioneer because in Sausalito, California, she started Focal Point Productions and she ran it for 14 years. And production companies in the Bay Area at that time were very competitive. And Deborah was the only female owned and operated one in that entire region. And she did over 60 films, videos, documentaries as well, many of them award-winning. And so that's what at the core of our company is those two skill sets.
Exactly. We have translated performance techniques for business professionals. And what that means is identifying an intention, overcoming anxiety, painting visual snapshots, and as you said in your intro, finding your authentic voice. So you claim to be an introvert, but we've listened to you, and the way you put together content and your sense of humor and your voice says that you can be as persuasive as anybody else. And we'd much rather speak with an introvert than a motivational speaker who is not very authentic or credible.
So you can see really, Denise, how our training goes. Deborah just gave you an example. She's a film director and television. I was a director on stage as well as a performer. So we just can't help but go, oh, this is what I hear in you. That's a particular sound. Let's draw out your authenticity and couple that with your brain power, and you'll be just so much better.
So never sit with us at an award ceremony, because we'll be going, oh my God, didn't they prepare? They're one of 5 finalists. Or they go on and on without giving anything specific. And don't they know millions of people are watching them?
Right. And do they really think that saving the giraffes is appropriate for accepting an Oscar?
That's a whole nother story.
So
you led off. Yes, please, Denise.
But I really am an introvert. I have figured out over time that I'm only good around live human people for 59 and 3/4 minutes. I've timed it. That's all I've got.
Okay.
I've got to go home. But I'm not shy and I don't have any filters. My brain is always in overdrive and I need to be alone to sort through it, to walk through it, to create with it. And if people are talking to me or at me, I get tired. It's exhausting for me. So yeah, I am an introvert. But I'm not one of those people that says, get off the grass. I will be. I intend to grow up to be the crazy cat lady on the porch with a shotgun and a cat and a bottle of some kind of rum or something, yelling, get off the grass. But I'm a ways away from that. So I'm still
going to stay out of your yard.
Yeah, stay out of the yard.
I wish all of our speakers could take what you have and we could bottle it, because then I'd never be bored at another conference again, listening to someone being overly professorial or boring, because you're not. And we always say attention precedes comprehension. So the way you grab people's attention is to hook them, is to be visual. You led off with everything you've learned about public speaking is wrong. And here's some examples of that. 1, you were taught to be polite and general and considerate. That will make you totally forgettable. Instead, paint a picture, paint a visual snapshot with your words so that the listener can play the movie in their heads of what it is you're talking about, and you will much more quickly persuade them.
And Deborah's talking about, one method of connecting with your audience, but literally it's not a conversation when you're doing a presentation, but it needs to have the feel of it, as though it's like a call and response, in church, but you are throwing something out, and it may be a rhetorical statement or question, but you're having them nod and think, oh yeah, I see what she's saying. Yeah, that's interesting.
So another way that everything you've learned about speaking is wrong is people were taught to leave themselves out of it because they're part of a team. And we love that. Always give credit to other people and acknowledge who you're working with. But unless we hear why a topic is important to you, unless we hear your perspective and an I statement, you will never fully persuade us. And when you have stage fright, as 90% of the population does, and you forget where you are or you feel like you're losing an audience, add your perspective, add an I statement.
And that's one of the things that's really different. I mean, we certainly talk about it a lot in our books, but the fact that people think there's this curtain between personal and professional. And one of the things that's different about our training is we go, no. You're one of our statements is your whole life is material. You have great material. I mean, we're Denise, you and I are from the South, and Oklahomans think they're in the South, but I know the geography. Anyway, it's pulling from those stories, those influences, those events
Insights.
in your life, and epiphanies that you had over time, and putting them into your professional presentation.
However, People need structure.
Yeah.
We never advocate shaggy dog stories or going on about your personal life without a reason.
Yeah.
And so we teach structure because so many people will not speak because it takes too long. So we teach people to be efficient, to identify an intention and a role and have a compelling open, divide their content into no more than 3 talking points or buckets, and how to close, and then how to rehearse and engage an audience. So all of our trainings are no more than 8 people. Now that may not be financially as beneficial as it could be because our competitors will stick 30 people in a room, but we want people to change and grow and be successful and speak at a conference, give a TED talk, overcome their anxiety. The only way to do that is to get up on your feet and to do it.
Absolutely.
I think I warned you. I take a lot of notes while I'm listening to my guests, and I do a lot of listening, at least I hope I do. But you said something about personal and professional. I like to describe that more as personable and professional. I'm not going to tell people my personal story as a rule, but I can get personable as all heck. Does that make sense? Because
Yes.
to me,
And
personal
what we're
can get,
talking,
you can step off the edge of the curb doing that stuff. It's like, I don't
yes.
care if you
Now,
lost your bra in the back of a car. I really don't.
oh, I want to hear that story.
It
I'm
wasn't
sorry,
my
please.
story.
Okay. So what I'm talking about in terms of, and David is with your whole life being material, is if you want to be persuasive, and we always say, if you educate people, you get them to think, but if you persuade them, you get them to act. Share, for example, what you learned from a mentor or by playing a sport, or the way you interpret a news event in terms of a fire or a hurricane, and apply that to a business topic and the theme of what you want to persuade people of, and you grab their attention, because attention precedes comprehension. So we don't mean personal in terms of how many marriages you've had or what happened to your kids. We want people to draw from their life experience.
Well, for instance, Denise, we have a marriage attorney. And
family law.
Yeah, family law. They do a lot of great prenups for the stars. Let's say they're in LA, and he said to the California Bar Association in a talk, he got up and he started by saying, it's something about, well, Saturday mornings, I don't know what you do. I mean, normally I would like to go out and play ball with my kid in the park, but what I do is I get up and I get into uniform and I get in my car, squad car, and I drive out. I'm a search and rescue guy for Malibu area in the parks. Now, this is no different, frankly, than what I do for my clients as a marriage attorney, because what I will do is I'll set up things that protect them and so forth. And so, in other words, he's connected what he does on his personal time. So it's mindful and it's very thoughtful, but suddenly you go, oh, this guy is different. This is not just an attorney. Suddenly you're seeing the person, and it gives him power.
And for all of us, we like to say we're little kids in grown-up bodies. So what we've been doing since we were young influences the job we have, influences what we love to do. And you don't need to be overly formal or rigid in terms of to be taken seriously. What's most important is to share your enthusiasm and your passion for what you do, and then how it benefits the audience, the clients, the folks that you're pitching to. Because let's face it, the bar for speakers is so low. People have decided to be so boring in terms of what they present, that when you share a great story, when you have a structure and you keep the pacing and momentum going, moving forward, you will persuade a client, a colleague, an audience to your point of view and grow your business, because that's what most people want to do.
Earlier, you're waiting for somebody to just, and I started writing down, get to the point, because I get there, not you. I'm like, okay. You're telling some stories, but I'm not real invested in it. Like, look, I'm in the deep South. We're in the middle of hurricane season. We have 2 seasons, hotter than hell. That's it. That's all we got. But if I start a story and say, we just spotted Jim Cantor in Lake Charles, everybody knows what's coming, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you're like,
Yeah.
that means you better batten the hatches or get in your
Right.
car and run. Do something.
It's
So, but
great. And so you've got that wonderful piece of material that you can link
Shape.
in any way
right. And you can get to the
your
point with
topic.
it. Exactly. You can get
Yes.
to the point. So I
You
wanted
bring
to
up a great
ask,
point, Denise.
oh, I did? Tell me.
Yes, yes, you did. Because, most people with an opening, the old-fashioned way is with wind-ups. Good morning. My name is Deborah Shames. I'm here to talk about X. And isn't it a great day? Well, you've just lost your audience. You have a 30-second honeymoon period. So instead, we say a great opening hooks an audience, lets them know the tone and the frame, and gives the speaker's perspective, all in under 2 minutes. Now, that isn't easy to do, which is why it's one of the first exercises we do. And so you need to practice. But you just came up with a great opening line, and you're not even in our training.
Well, it is hurricane season. Guess what I'm thinking about? So, that and gumbo. Yeah, it's coming soon. But what I wanted to ask you too is, you've given, well, give me some examples of people who are just there wandering and they're up on stage. I'll give you an example, and I gave it to you in the green room. When I went back to get my college degree, they stuck us in an English class. I still don't know why, and I'm still a little bit miffed about it. I didn't need it. I just wanted to get my degree and get out. And they said, okay, Denise, and I was really the only female. It was a computer science degree. It was a male population type of thing at the time. And there was me and maybe one other woman in there, and I think she bailed out not too soon after. But they said, okay, Denise, come up here and talk. And I said, talk about what? Oh, anything you want. I thought, you don't give me that kind of permission. But I stomped up to the front of the room. I spoke extemporaneously for 30 minutes. Don't ask me what I spoke about. I never said, I just let her rip, and I got a standing ovation, and I did it with attitude.
Yes.
So they liked, but I wasn't afraid. At no point did I feel like I needed to clutch my stomach or throw up on somebody's shoes. I was mad. So that was kind of my first really public speaking. It was maybe, 20 people in a room. I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't hate it. So then when I went on to podcasting, I remember thinking many times during the opening statement that I make, I should be nervous, but I can't say I never have been, but I kind of sort of am. But you know what I do? You're going to think I'm a lunatic. Are you familiar with Amy Cuddy?
Of course.
Yeah,
The
sure.
TED Talk?
Power poses.
I do the Wonder Woman pose, and then I jump on my podcast and off I go. It helps.
Well, 90% of the population has speaker anxiety, and we say the other 10% are lying. And the truth is,
I'm somewhere in between, right?
Yes.
I don't want to have to cry.
You don't want to eliminate speaker anxiety altogether because it keeps you sharp and focused and able to think on your feet. But you need structure and you need practice. And for most people, the anxiety ramps up for sometimes weeks before they have a scheduled talk to give, a presentation. And so what we give them are tools, techniques, and safety nets from the performance your
performance
experience
playbook. I mean, it's really what professionals use to get through performances.
Right. They'll throw up and they're before a performance and they're shy people. And what we've learned is speaker anxiety often comes from, well, the actual term glossophobia is the fear of being found out for something you're not. So when we can give our clients permission to let their own personality shine through, and we teach them how to structure a presentation, how to grab an audience, how to rehearse, and then they have to practice starting in low ante environments. It changes everything. And there's nothing more gratifying for David and me than to have our clients who have never put themselves out there or who kept at a low level position. Suddenly they're promoted to a managerial or supervisory position. Suddenly they get the job they want, or they raise the money for their favorite nonprofit. This is what we live for. This is why we wrote Briefly Speaking, to give people the tips when we can't be there for them.
Well, and also I've always admired people when I was a young student of acting. I watched, and luckily sometimes was on stage with very, very good actors that were years ahead of me in training.
Eli, what was that?
Well, Craig Nelson years ago, who did the series Coach for years. We were at the University of Arizona, and the thing is, I was 3.5 years younger than Craig, but I'd sit there on stage and I'd watch him, or off in the wings. Well, that's what we bring to people, is how do people that, like in my line of work, former career, do 8 shows a week? How you keep your energy up, how you use variety, how you change your voice, your perspective to keep you fresh and the material good. Those are all very granular skills that we bring to the table because we want people to be comfortable, relaxed, and feel like themselves when they're up there.
And the problem is, if you don't speak, then there's a long time in between your presentations or communication. You're going to ramp up your anxiety, and it's going to be too important. So you need to find those avenues after you train with us, whether it's giving a toast at a wedding, doing a lunch and learn, moderating a panel, so that you test out these new skills. And then when you get success, then you build on it. And it's a long process, but we are always there. We've had clients now for up to 20 years, and we love to see them continue to grow and expand.
Another note that I just made to myself is voice actors. I love to read. Y'all know this. I've got hundreds of books in this room, and they're all gifted to me by people like you. But and I'm also an Audible. Give me Audible. If I don't watch TV, I'd rather just be hit by a brick than watch TV. It's just, I don't like it none. But most of the time I would read or listen to business books. And then recently I came across, The Secret Garden, which is one of my favorite books when I was a child. And I started listening to the voices that this one person was crafting for this book, and I was fascinated. So I started going to look for books of actors who were reading books, and oh my God, they're just amazing. So do you work with people like that as well?
Oh, sure. We have trained a number of people for voice presentations, as it were. I record books for Audible. And
in fact, he did the 750 plus tips in Briefly Speaking. He recorded all of these tips, and in mid-October, the Audible version of Briefly Speaking will be available.
We'll send you an audio copy since you like to listen.
I was going to say, I would love to listen. Let me know.
Sure. And they'll be out just after the
EPUB.
The EPUBs and the ebooks and so forth. But we work with people a lot on their voice because you know how the world has changed in terms of the demographic and the population and cultural population. So
80% of our clients are first generation, were born in another country, have never really liked their voice. And so, yes, and David does some voice and diction work with them, although that's not our focus.
It's not our focus, but if a person especially comes to us, if it's an individual training, in other words, in corporations, people will say, well, we like Jane, but we can't put her in front of really large clients because her accent is a little bit thick and may be difficult to hear. And for that reason, she tends to back off of those client meetings. And so we will go in and do some specific voice and diction work. However, our theory is don't lose your accent.
Right.
Oh, for God's sake, it's, it
makes you who you are.
And it's colorful. Every accent is colorful and nice to listen to if we can understand you clearly.
That's another way that everything you learned about speaking is wrong. People come to the US and I have to speak like a broadcaster. No, that will be phony. Your accent is beautiful.
Yes.
Just as you said, enunciate and make sure people can understand you.
Yes.
And with speaker anxiety, people will tend to speed up, which makes an accent even more difficult to understand.
Yeah.
The truth is we're lazy. We slur our consonants. We
Yes.
do. So we have to be careful
we-
about that. You know, people
Yes.
say that again? Well, and don't ask me what I just said because I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say until I just heard it. So I have to be careful how I don't think I have an accent. I do know that I have a drawl, which to me is very different.
Oh, it's like sorghum molasses.
That's
and
right.
it's really nice. It's a great flavor, musical flavor to your voice. Yeah,
Okay, I think we're done here now. I'm good.
Okay, good.
I mean, I had to get rid of mine because, of course, I was doing roles, so I was playing people of different nationalities
And Shakespeare
so forth,
yes.
and Shakespeare. So I couldn't sound like an Okie, which I did. I'd say, "Hi, Denise, good to see you. My name's David, and I'm real proud to be here today."
And you're the King of England, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, my accent.
Yeah, can you imagine? So
One of my favorite
I had
accents is from Tennessee. I can spot anybody from Tennessee within the first 2 syllables. Like, I know where you're from.
That's right. And people from the Tidewater area down in Richmond, whenever I went to grad school. I mean, but that's the thing. It places us in a location, but at the same time, it says, I have roots. This is where I am from. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not like, hi, I'm from Bob's School of Broadcasting, and today we're going to bring you, I mean, you've heard those guys. It just doesn't play.
Well, nothing about our training and what we've created in the Eloqui method is template driven or traditional.
Yeah.
So, for example, we do teach people how to tell a story, and it has to be brief with an obstacle solution benefit. But then you add your own flavor to it. You add your own, for example, in the solution, you talk about what your process is. And we're playing that movie in our heads as you're describing it. And then we go, I want to work with him. I want to work with her. And so we all need structure. Otherwise, when all eyes are on us, it can diminish our capacity to be ourselves.
People, and Deborah's right, people generally will go one of two ways, and they're both extreme in this kind of preparation. They will either write and memorize every single word of it as though they're doing a Shakespeare play, and they're not. Or they will completely wing it. Now, if they wing it, they'll tend to get lost and ramble and lose their audience at some
Either
point.
way is bad.
Both ways do not work. But for us, we have our clients create an outline with message, their intention, their purpose, what role they're bringing to it, and it gives them this great sense of peace that, oh, I'm supported, but so I know where I'm going, and I have a nice flow to my presentation and a structure, but I have freedom to improvise where I want to.
It's like having a GPS system.
Yeah.
If you have local knowledge, you won't take the turn that the GPS woman tells you to take, but you know where you are. Having the GPS system, though, tells you where you want to end up, and hopefully the fastest and most efficient way of getting there. And so many people don't speak because they think it's going to take too much time and effort. It doesn't have to, but it has to be compelling. And there are so few great speakers out there, great presenters, that they then, when they attend our workshop or we do a training at their company, they then have lots of opportunities. And how wonderful is that when you get an ovation or you get people coming up to you and say, I couldn't do that, you were fabulous. And that's where we want to get our clients to.
Well, yeah, and oftentimes people will call us up, and maybe it's the CEO, and he goes, well, my CFO is a little bit tough, and I've got a COO.
He talks too long.
He does this, and I want you to make him, I want you to polish him, make him smooth and polished. And
Perfect.
Like,
yeah.
Nah, we do exactly the opposite. We will bring out the authenticity. We'll let him seem, him or her, whoever it is, personable, close, Because if don't have a sense of genuineness and authenticity, the audience won't trust them. And if they don't trust them, they really won't believe what they're saying.
Or do business with them.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. And we love working with young people because millennials, Gen Xers, they get the authenticity in terms of, they don't get dressed up with a dark suit and a white shirt. They don't gesture a certain way. They don't do all the old-fashioned things because this is not the time anymore.
Well, and you mentioned voice and diction, Denise, and one of the things that we do, especially thinking about younger people, is they carry a lot of habits with them, as all of us do, but theirs tend to be in this area. They will speak with an upward inflection, and in every sentence with this, that they're going up.
Which makes them sound not certain and not trustworthy.
So literally training people.
When I hear somebody that...
Right.
I'm sorry. When I hear somebody valley girling all over the place, I leave. It's like, really?
You leave, right?
I leave
on the radio.
I'm gone.
Yes,
but it's crazy. I'll hear a TED talk, and maybe it's a younger person, and they'll be using the upward inflection, and I can't listen to them.
There's a worse one, and those are discourse particles or fillers. When somebody has to end every phrase or sentence with right, just, after a while, I'm like, I can't hear what your content is because I'm counting. I'm counting how many likes, just, or knows. The other thing that young people will tend to do is they speak in long run-on sentences. And when you do that, the speaker cannot remember where they're going, and the audience or the listener stops listening. So we teach people to speak in short sentences with a downward inflection. Whoever coached the speakers at the recent Democratic National Convention understood that. And every single speaker spoke in short phrases with a downward inflection so that the audience could absorb what their message was. We were impressed.
And we do talk about neuroscience in our books, and we bring that training into it, or those insights. And one of the things is being able to make people see what it is you're talking about. But you also want people to retain what you say. And what Deborah's saying with the shorter phrases and sentences is called chunking and bunching in memory. So if I have a thought, well, I want to present it efficiently, and then I want to close it off.
So, for example, never give a list of more than 3 items. The brain can't absorb it, and you won't remember it.
And in memory science, 3 becomes 1. It's like our area code. They're 505 in New Mexico. So that 505 becomes a single unit. And that's how you can make people remember what you have to say.
We teach storytelling a lot because it's great whether you're pitching, you're in a networking group, or you are giving a presentation at a conference. And a story is memorable, but it has to be targeted with one message embedded in it. And in the middle of the story, the solution, never give more than 3 verbs, which shows your process, 3 things you did. And so, for example, we'll pass out a list of 500 active verbs because since we judge you by your verbs, you want active verbs like I negotiated, I assessed the difficulty, and then I leveraged my contacts in the blank world, whatever that is. And those are the kind of tips and techniques that people can use immediately. A speaker training has to be practical and has to be something you can apply immediately.
While I'm listening to you, one word, marketing. What you're teaching here is marketing.
That's true.
I mean, it has to be condensed. It has to make sense. It has to be in pictures.
Yes.
It has to, like you said, it has to be obstacle, solution, benefit. All of these can be worked into it, but then you condense it down. It's marketing, pure and simple.
And let me give you an example of what people do incorrectly. Again, an old-fashioned term. They were taught to use the word help, to not take credit or responsibility. Help is a weak verb. It doesn't show what you actually do. David always says, do you want a helper when you hire a contractor? Or do you want somebody who does the job? And typically people will say, I helped negotiate. And we'll tell them, leave out the help and go right to negotiate. And so if we judge you by your verbs, help, try, assist, those are weak verbs. You can immediately change how you're perceived with stronger muscular verbs.
Well, and you're right, Denise, it is marketing. And when sometimes we will say, well, if you're going in for a pitch, and people in our trainings, like the immersion workshops we do in Santa Fe, they'll say, oh, I'm not in sales. I'm in computer whatever, or I'm in management.
I'm a transactional attorney, yeah.
You know,
yes, you are.
You mean you're not selling an idea to your team when you're inspiring them? You're not persuading them to. I mean, we're all.
You're not building a collaborative relationship with other professionals in your field. We're all in sales.
Yes, and they're all acts of persuasion.
Right.
So that's why we bring the tools from our world in entertainment and in neuroscience to reinforce your decision-making capacity by persuasion.
So here's how people make decisions. It's with their right brain first. It's the whole idea. It's the gist. It's shared values and emotions. And then you need to back it up with left brain. Take it.
Yeah, because left brain is all about rules, regulations, critical thinking. It's very much a balance. But what happens is, literally, this happens in milliseconds. The right brain will say, that feels like the right thing to do. And then it will transfer over into the left brain, where then it will go, oh, well, let me run a little quick statistical analysis to prove this decision, but the decision's already been made.
Many engineers, lawyers, CPAs will start with their left brain. They'll go data, 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 fact, fact, fact. And the listener is saying, well, what's the whole idea? Why are you telling me this? That simple shift to starting with the whole idea and then backing it up with data makes a huge difference in terms of persuading the listener to your point of view.
Deborah's so right. And that's what so many people do differently, or do wrongly, incorrectly, is it's just before detail. What's the gist? What's the whole idea? And then prove it to me with a fact pattern.
Get my attention first, paint me a picture, and
Yes.
then tell me why I should continue to listen.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And this is not a long story. People make decisions very quickly. So you don't want to start by boring them. You don't want to start by giving, being totally an expert, because we don't do business with experts. We don't trust them. And they leave themselves out of it. And then
I'm laughing because I agree with you.
Oh, oh yeah. Well, so much of what people learned is wrong. There's so many mistakes that they can be corrected, even in terms of gestures and physical appearance, because people will say, I was told not to use my hands, or not to use them so much, or I was taught to gesture a certain way. And we talked in the pre-show about impression management. We'll make decisions about you very quickly based on your physical appearance and gestures. Meaning, are you invested in your topic? Do you use your hands to be persuasive? Do you make good eye contact, or do you look at the floor or your shoes? All of that in terms of impression management is huge for people achieving their objective.
And we're not talking about Hollywood looks or glam clothing or anything like that. I mean, no. That's all completely off the ticket, because what happens is, if you're connected to your subject and you're passionate about it, you really have intellectual curiosity that you're performing with. It's wonderful. It's really great, because people will connect with you and go, God, I just love what she's saying. That was so neat, and I really believed her.
We even go into clothing. So the old-fashioned way is high contrast, dark suits, white shirt. And I even remember the time with women when we used to have these huge shoulder pads, so that we looked more male and we looked more authoritative.
But Deborah's talking about, in terms of high contrast, what it does is it presents a uniform, police, military, etc. And so it gives you gravity, but only if you're an expert witness going on the stand.
Instead, wear monochromatic clothing. Blue is your go-to color, because blue is trustworthy and approachable. Don't have anything get in the way of all the attention going up to your face, which means no high pattern ties, no big jewelry, nothing that gets in the way of people going to your face to make a decision of what you have to say.
Yeah, we're not advocating one party or another by any chance, by any means, but the Democratic National Convention got it right on that point too. And we were so impressed because normally, whatever party it is, they don't get it right. They put on kind of the costume of the party.
Yeah, dark suit, white shirt, red tie. But
what they did,
Oprah wore a solid purple dress that says Regal. Duh, she got it. Amanda Gorman, the young poet, a blue, a solid blue dress. Michelle Obama, dark blue. And when Kamala Harris spoke about accepting the Democratic nomination, you notice she didn't wear contrast. She wore all navy blue, dark navy blue, which says I'm serious, and meant gravity, and it meant all the attention could go up to my face. That was very intentional, Denise.
And no big jewelry.
None.
Many times, none at all.
Yes.
Very unusual.
Yes.
But what happened is there's nothing on that palette to look at, so we look at your face. This comes from our background in entertainment. When I would go on camera for many years, blue shirt, navy jacket, if that's what it called for, and a tie back in the old days, but nothing that would detract from the face, because that's your communication tool.
I just remembered, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just remembered one more. Two of the speakers were all in white, and I wondered what that was. And then I realized it's representing the suffragette, the women's movement. And Hillary Clinton, who was dissed for being too whatever, doesn't matter. She wore pale yellow, which says, I'm a softer, more approachable person. Clothing, gestures, structure, all of that impacts on how an audience, a client, a colleague accepts or doesn't accept you and your message.
Because when Deborah was directing films or I was in a film, of course, you have to think about the whole thing, because this is the story. I am the storyteller when I'm on camera. Deborah's directing the storyteller, so that she's looking at every little piece, not only how we speak or formulate our ideas or express ourselves, what level of expressiveness, but is your wardrobe expressing the same thing? Do you have integrity in terms of all the pieces fitting together?
And one last thing, and then we really want to hear from you. Be very careful about what you eat before you speak, meaning no dairy products, no bananas, no peanut butter, anything that gives your mouth a sticky quality. Because I worked in production for a long time, and when I'm in the editing booth and editing room, and someone has eaten those foods, we can't get rid of that we call them BFF, BFN, bodily fluid noises. So drink lots of room temperature water, have grapes nearby, and second best are apples.
Or white rice before I jump on the microphone. Instant inflammation. Instant. I'm going to need a Benadryl. I just know better. Oh, I wrote down.
Are you serious?
Really?
Yeah. I can't eat any of those. And, I'm in the South. We eat rice like it's every day. Rice. I can't do it. Breaks my heart.
Wow.
I got
Well,
you.
I wrote.
Thanks. We'll add that to our training.
Yeah.
No white rice before you
If anybody is, has any kind of inflammation issue, anything white bread, white rice, just stay away from it. Have some tea handy, though. You're going to need it. But I wrote down while you were talking, and tea with honey, by the way, fourth wall.
Yes.
What does that mean, fourth wall? Because you're talking about acting, David.
Yes, ma'am. It's a stage term, meaning what you're doing when you're sitting in the audience and watching a play is you're watching an action in a space that has had the fourth wall removed so that you're able to be viewing it, the action, as though you were coming into it as well.
We say break the fourth wall.
Yes, because a lot of people will present as though
they're separate.
They're just speaking and being observed. And that's one of the things that makes people have stage fright.
Okay.
But if you break the fourth wall and come through it, then you're connected with them.
Yes, it's all about connecting and engaging.
You're listening to your audience. And by listening, I mean you're watching them and you're drawing in from their energy, and they're
Yes.
listening to you and watching you. And it's all very cohesive if you're doing it properly.
That's why you always want to work off an outline. If you have memorized or tried or read your copy, you can't make a connection with the audience. You can't see whether your comments are landing or not landing. You cannot revise and adapt what you have to say. Now, at first, that will terrify people, but after a while, they realize they know their topic. They're getting feedback. They're getting good feedback for the most part. And if somebody's on their phone, they could be giving them a good review. So work off an outline so you can keep connecting with an audience.
Yeah, and this is a tool that needs to be developed by anyone who's presenting, whether it's live or virtually, is get that sense, start listening, start feeling the energy of the audience, and certainly listening for their responses and the level of response. And you'll get much, much better over time. I mean, Carol Channing, the old actress of yesteryear, who did Hello Dolly and was very successful for a long time, said one time, people said, well, what do you do on stage? And she goes, well, I'm of course attuned to the actors that I'm on stage with, but I have another ear, and that other ear is always tuned to the audience, so that I know how to make minor adjustments, critical adjustments in my performance.
And David referenced Carol Channing. With our book, Briefly Speaking, the 3-book set, we had to make it engaging to read. So we take references from Hollywood, from science, from literature, from history, from men and women who achieved great things. And out of those references, we give our audience tips, because when you have something critical coming up, you don't have time to read a whole book. We're not always available. And so what you want are tips for how to open, tips for managing anxiety, tips for how to engage when you're not feeling fresh anymore, or you're feeling like, oh, I've done this topic so many times, I got to inject something new.
Well, and they're distilled, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I may not say, well, in the course of my day, in my life, I don't think I have enough time to also give myself an entire course in how to speak better. But if I see 4 or 5 tips that I can then kind of marinate during the day, then that will support me. That will train people over time. That's why we made them tips.
And I really like when people say, I never thought of that, or I've taken speaker training and this is so different than anything I've ever had. And we take that as a compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've mentioned this a couple of times, that you always have maybe a document, but you always have your talking points. You have, what did you call it? Wasn't a script. Outline. You said outline.
Outline.
Look, I work with scripts.
Yeah.
I hope people don't notice it, but I have to, because otherwise my mouth just goes zip and it's down the road, and I'm going, come back. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh God, I'd love to work with you, Denise. I would love, you could, in my mind, you're a TED Talk speaker who's in the closet, because you have the kind of perspective that I would love to listen to. But for whatever reason, you do radio podcasts and we don't see you. But that just makes me more curious.
I was the oldest of a whole bunch of kids, and I kept asking them, do you know what caused this? They never did give me a real answer, but there was me, my sister Diane, my sister Debbie, and she always told people that my sister Diane was the corporate daughter, and Denise was the smart ass, educated daughter. I was educated smart ass.
That's why you're so good to listen to. You're a smart ass. We love that.
He told me multiple times, I would wake up, hit the floor running, and the devil would say, oh crap, she's awake. And I believed her.
Oh.
You never know what people are going to say that sticks with you.
Very true.
It's true. And that's why we always draw people's authentic voice out of them. It's like, what is that engine in you that runs, that makes you different from the other kids in your family? What are your unique qualities that you can display? Because that's what an audience grabs onto.
And it doesn't matter. We have, our clients are Coldwell Banker, and this is real estate, and Northern Trust, and they're buttoned down financial advisors, and Ochsner Health and Medical in Louisiana. It doesn't matter. They still have to be persuasive. They still want to advance in their careers, and they want to feel good about speaking as opposed to terrified about it. And this is why we do what we do. And then David mentioned our 2-day workshop. So we enjoy bringing together people from different industries into a room over 2 days and giving them the skills and having them hear from other professionals how they're doing. Because if typically David came up to me and said, okay, you just heard my last presentation, how did I do? People would say, fine. Well, we want them to hear what the audience is really hearing, and then give them the tools to make changes and to do better one skill at a time.
Do you ask them specifically, how did this make you feel? What did you take away from this? I mean, you have to kick it back to them,
Yes.
don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you remember? And
That's
boy,
the scary part.
There you go.
and what will make we'll make believers out of our clients is they'll ask somebody and they'll go, well,
They don't
was the question?"
remember when the speaker was general. And
Yes.
that's the quickest way to get people to start speaking in visual snapshots and specifics. Quickest way, or the story. And you have to use these skills right away, or as soon as it gets stressful, as soon as a lot's riding on it, people will go back to the way they always presented. It's safe, it's familiar, even if it's ineffective. So we need to get people up on their feet constantly so that they change behavior. And look, Denise, I had terrible stage fright. I was always behind the scenes. And now send me out to 1,000 people. I just did a webinar for 1,000 people. It's like, boy, that was fast. It was over in 60 minutes. But it takes tools. And I started small. I started in low ante environments.
It's also that expectation. I mean, one of the central book of the three book set is
Briefly Speaking.
Yeah, Briefly Speaking is present. So it's everything about when you're out there, when you're on the ice, or when you're on camera, and you've got to deliver. How do you deliver? What are the tools? And one of the things that we brought over from Deborah's film work and my acting work is role. And you think, well, how does that work if you want us to be authentic, play a role? It's like, no. One of the things you were talking about that got you through is you came on with attitude in your speech back in college.
Ugly. She took on seasoned veteran without realizing it.
It's seasoned veteran. It's what we train people in all the time.
Yeah. And if you're a seasoned veteran, they don't care if an audience likes them or not. It's like, throw tomatoes at me. I don't care. This is what I know from being street smart. This is what I've done my whole life. And to listen to a seasoned veteran is so engaging. That's why we go to speaker series. And we always look for the seasoned veterans.
Well, because they speak from their experience. Excuse me. They have plenty of stories. But they do them concisely because they don't want to bore anybody. They're not pretending to be an expert, so they don't have these high expectations of being the perfect professional. They're just talking about what they know.
Yeah.
It gives people incredible strength, but at the same time, people in the audience go, I buy that. I believe them. They're wonderful.
I call it a suit of armor.
Yeah.
You have an intention of what you want to achieve, and then you put on a suit of armor, meaning a role. Facilitator, visionary, seasoned veteran. And it works like gangbusters.
And here's the thing. I mean, I listen to people all the time. I'm either reading their work or I'm listening to them because I'm intensely curious.
Yes.
I'm not going to meet you in my local Walmart, but I'm going to listen to you and read you and get to know you. And I always have more questions. The more I listen, the more I read, I'm like, oh, and my hand goes up. I have a question. Then I have to go research a little bit more. And that's, I think, what y'all are telling people to do. Be fascinating enough in your own skin that people want to know more. Is that what I'm hearing?
We would love to change the business environment with that. We would love to see the world with speakers who are not only authentic, but curious and who really keep us engaged, whether it's listening or reading or hearing people speak. We even tell them, this is how you write emails, not long, extensive paragraphs, but
They don't
hook
bullet point
people.
them. Yeah, two or three
Yes,
bullet points. That's all you
yes,
got.
that's all you got. 3 bullet points, and have a subject heading that draws my attention. Otherwise, it gets deleted. Exactly.
And you said a couple of things. I'm scribbling. I had to move my cat twice. I'm scribbling all over the place. But you said a couple of things that, sales, obviously, and I mentioned marketing, but sales, I mean, people say, oh, yeah, look, when I was young, I was pretty young, and I had just come back into town from a livestock auction. You were talking about talking with your hands. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But I came in from a livestock auction because I had accidentally, inadvertently bought 2 little piglets. I didn't need 2 little piglets. I had them in the trunk of my car because I didn't know what the heck
Oh
to
my
do
God.
with them. So I ran
Because your
home, grabbed
hand went up.
my yeah, both hands, I think. And they don't, you bought
Oh.
pigs, they're not going to let you take it back. So they're yours. So I ran home. I grabbed a couple of pillowcases, put them in the trunk of the car, cracked it open so I wouldn't suffocate them, went to the feed store, and I'm begging anybody who was still walking or upright, does anybody want any pigs? Anybody want any pigs? And
Oh,
I
geez.
finally convinced
pigs.
somebody, yeah, please, 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 I can't take these things home. I don't know what I was thinking. And I felt this tap on my shoulder, and this tiny little farmer, I've never forgotten him. This is quite a while back. I'm sure he's long gone. And he said, honey, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. And he said, I want you to know that you are the best natural salesperson I have ever heard. And I wanted to slug him. I was so insulted because I was not a salesperson, was not a used car salesperson. I was instantly offended. And every day, I'm not joking, I apologize to that man in heaven because he was right and I was wrong.
He was right.
Yep. But
Exactly.
I don't talk with my hands
Sales
anymore. I sit on them.
Oh, no. Sales is not. So what's it going to take to sign on the dotted line? Because that's old fashioned. But sales is being passionate, making it about your audience. Like, you take these pigs and your kids will have the best pet they ever had. I'm making this up, obviously, because I'm from the south side of Chicago.
Right. They'll make good bacon one day. You just have to feed them.
Right. Yeah,
but I remember that.
Chew the grass in your yard.
Yeah, but I just remember him tapping me on the shoulder. He'd not said a word. And I remember thinking, what the heck? And I was genuinely offended. And I think he probably knew it. I said, well, thank you. And I was, very polite. But I was thinking, oh, man, I'm going to grow up to be an insurance salesman. And I was about ready to cry. So,
hey, we have a lot of insurance clients. There's nothing wrong with growing up to be a salesman.
No, but I mean, we work with people in the university system, different places, the Kellogg School of Management and
UCLA, USC,
and some of the college presidents, and they will often say, once we start digging into how to deliver with a little more color and expressiveness, they go, oh, you don't understand. It's a very pro forma presentation. I have to deliver. This is like the state of the university and what's going on and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no. That's just material. That's just content. What you're doing is you're presenting you're inspiring them. You're motivating them. You're selling ideas.
Yes.
So of course you're in sales.
Yes. Everyone is really in sales.
The longest kind of time to understand that. We are going to run out of time. This has been fascinating. So before we wrap up today's conversation, I want to thank both of you. You guys are fascinating. And thank you for sharing your insights and your expertise with us. But before I let you go, do either of you have any last thoughts or key takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience? And where can they get these books? I know they're not published yet. I have advanced copies. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone who from this show wants to get the 3-book set can go to brieflyspeaking.biz. It's really simple. And they'll get a discounted price. We'll sign the 3 books and we will absorb the shipping. Now, tomorrow, the book launches on Amazon. But why pay full price? Get it at brieflyspeaking.biz. And then I put my card in the box. And if you have any questions, one of the things our value add is once someone has trained or heard us, they can call me anytime or set up a Zoom session and say, Deborah, I have a question about intention or about my message or about how to rehearse or engage an audience. And I'm happy to do that for no charge.
The books are in a 3-book set. They're small and portable enough and light enough that you can carry them in a purse, a backpack, a briefcase, whatever you have, and mark on them and highlight them and dog ear them, to make them really useful and practical.
One of our clients is an Olympian. She's phenomenal. She has won gold, silver, bronze. And Wendy will never do a major keynote without talking to us first. And she did what David just said. She dog ears pages and she goes, I need to go back to that. And that really warms our hearts. We do this out of passion and love. We've been doing it a long time, 24 years.
Yeah.
And we've stayed married, which is amazing. And all of our trainers are male, female. And that's what we do on a regular basis. Yes, Denise, you had a question or comment?
I do. I'm laughing because, you're talking about dog earing or marking a book. My librarian from my childhood would smite me. I was told to never mark a book, but
Aww.
I own a ton of sticky notes. So these books get fat because they've got sticky notes all over them. But
that
I've
makes us feel good.
Good memory.
Oh, they're fat. In fact, I actually can't fit them back in the box now because I've got so many sticky notes in all 3 books.
I love that.
But I have taken pictures of them. I have not a podcast, but I have a blog ready to go. As soon as they're out there and they're ready for people to buy, they can go to you or to my blog and find the books. So anyway, and honestly, I think y'all need to come back again. Let's maybe towards the end of the year, once the books are out and you've got more things. I'm sure you have more things to share. I know you do.
Thank you. We would love that. And we've been interviewed by a lot of people. Truly, you are one of the best. And I'm a terrible liar.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, listen, you've told everybody where to find you. And I do have your business card. I'm looking right at it. When I opened I turned the books, the little box over, it fell out and I went, oh, and I grabbed it. It went straight down into underneath the desk and I had to crawl under there to get it, but I got it. I retrieved it. Well, listen, everybody, for those of you who want to connect with Deborah and David, you can, and very easily, you can find them on eloqui.biz, eloqui.biz, as well as on LinkedIn. And be sure to check out their work and their resources to enhance your own communication skills. And they've got them. These books are fabulous, by the way. And don't forget to head to Amazon after tomorrow, because right now they want you to go to eloqui.biz and order the Briefly Speaking deluxe box set. And they're lightweight. You can grab one, put it in your bag. If you're going to have to be sitting around waiting on tires to get in your vehicle, I just did that not so long ago. I had a book in front of me. It's like, they're saying, oh, what are you reading? So I was sharing the book. Why not? So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. And this is why. Your feedback helps me reach more listeners and continue to bring you inspiring conversations. So until next time, take care and keep communicating with confidence. Deborah, David, thank you. You have made my day.
Thank
Ours
you.
too.
You too.
Thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffiths at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.